Okay, so this is our second video on the global gold standard on what exactly was the gold standard. So it was we have banks that had gold in their vaults that would be used to back paper receipts in their economy, paper receipts issued, being backed by the gold that they held. These banks were the gold in their vault to back the money was sometimes called the reserve, and then these banks were all over the world. And each bank, based on how much gold was in their possession, they could provide their town, their city, their state, their nation with a certain amount of gold receipts at a fixed rates, and that's plural. And these fixed rates were part of a relationship between the bank and the state. So there was some understanding on what these rates look like. There was some partnership there, a relationship there. And this gave the banks the flexibility that they needed because we know from prior videos the supply of gold could fluctuate inside of an economy. And so if the supply of gold became too low, banks could issue more receipts than they had gold available. This is called fractional banking, when you issue more than you have available. And conversely, if the supply of physical gold became too high, you could pull back on the paper receipts that you issued. And the theory of this was a mechanism to keep the amount of money in an economy right-sized, which would avoid the problems that were found during the bimetal system, and trying to make the use of money more convenient, more predictable. And these fluctuations, different countries could have different local supply demand fluctuations, different fluctuations in the amount of paper notes issued. But since the gold standard was international, there was a very predictable link when it came to the relationship between the currencies within countries. So these two countries here, their receipts would have a set exchange rate. And so to continue this example, this was the set exchange rate between these two countries. This was, and then for these two countries in particular, this rate remained unchanged for almost 100 years, and it was just a lot easier to conduct international business with these consistent rates. And a couple other topics that are tied to this, and we'll start with the third party in a transaction, and we'll go through an example. So here we have a bank that has 6 pieces of gold, and it issues a receipt for one of those pieces. And this receipt is also called a liability. It's a debt. It's a responsibility that the bank owes. And this person here, they have $10, but this $10 is tied to another person's debt, another person's liability. And in a way, the asset of this person, well, not in a way, like it does. It depends upon the actions and the responsibilities of a third party. This third party has to be trusted that it won't lose the gold, spend it irresponsibly, it'll pay it back. This is known as having a third party in your transaction. And then the second topic is called final settlement. So now we look at how banks would deal with each other. And in this case, we have a bank here who's going to pay $10 of gold to another bank. And this bank would take the piece of gold, give it to the other bank, and there are no liabilities here. The gold is either yours or it isn't. You either have it as an asset or you don't. And since gold is not tied to anyone else's responsibility, this is also referred to as a bearer asset. And okay, so now back to our banks around the world as they're conducting their settlements and as trade was happening. So international trade would cause the need for these international settlements, and these banks were moving gold around on a routine basis. And by the end of the gold standard, I found some conflicting numbers on this, but approximately there's approximately 5 billion in gold circulating, and a good chunk of this was within bank vaults, serving as the reserve for paperback receipts. And again, this is all the best estimate I could make. So, in conclusion, what exactly was the gold standard? Well, every country that was in the gold standard, they had their national currency pegged to gold, and that peg did not change. Now they could change the local supply of receipts within a country, but their relationship to another country, those exchange rates between country currencies would not change. And then to conduct final settlement, banks would physically transport gold and exchange the gold with one another. And gold was no one else's responsibility. It was a bearer asset. If you own the gold, it is yours, and it's no one else's responsibility.